Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. The rains have been a-coming, and that wreaks havoc on our home and our offices. No worries. Water Cleanup of Florida will make sure if you have any issues there, they're corrected, and they look brand new. Just call 954-579-0356, and they will help you out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 954-579-0356 with licensed, certified, insured contractors on staff. Again, they'll not only correct your issues, key part there, they'll make them look brand new. They did that for my wife, myself. They will do that for you. Check them out on their website, WCUFL.com, on the socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Water Cleanup FL. Also on Google with over 80, by now probably tons more 5-star reviews. Water Cleanup of Florida. Believe me, if you have the schmutz, they have the guts. Miami Heat had the guts, got to the finals. They are looking to, I'm not retooled, they're looking to add a piece or two. They're already been involved in rumors to get Bradley Beal, who now is a part of the Phoenix Suns. Damian Lillard's out there. Bam Adebayo is a name that the Trailblazers have talked about, meaning there's interest, meaning the Heat hopefully can flesh out a Damian Lillard trade. And, of course, they would keep Bam Adebayo. Lots going on already in the NBA offseason, even though it started an hour and a half ago. We talked about it with longtime NBA insider, NBA writer, NBA analyst, NBA author, the one and only Howard Beck joined us today. The Defo Show will be right here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, talking Miami Heat and all things NBA.
Joining us right now, Howard Beck, one of our favorites, analyzing baskets. And we have so many things to discuss with him, contributing with GQ Sports. And we welcome Howard to the program. Howard, thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning, my friend.
We're doing all right. I shook up Lubie a little bit this morning. And I don't know. I mean, this has to be a wild time for anybody that's in the business of analyzing NBA, because you get crazy rumors that start, and then everybody wants to believe them. And I had Lubie half convinced today that Bam Adebayo, forget about Damian Lillard coming to Miami to be our personal, savior. It was going to be Bam Adebayo going to Portland for a number 3 pick, for a couple of players, and maybe some future picks. We just saw Pat Riley get up and in all sincerity embrace the fact that he loves these guys and would never take a sledgehammer to this team. Is there any merit to that whatsoever, in your opinion, Howard Beck?
I only saw a brief reference to it, so I don't know what the full context was. So you'll have to tell me, was this a Portland wants him, which is fine. A lot of teams want a lot of guys.
Yes.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can leave it at that. I mean, if you got to, not every rumor is the same, and not everything is worth considering at the same level. If somebody has reported that there's active talks, or that the Trailblazers think they can actually get him, or that Miami's offering him, then those are things that would require a lot more skepticism. If the report is simply Portland's trying to make a run at him, so great. And any teams make runs at players all the time, and they're rebuffed. And I look at it. Off the top of my head, do I think that the Miami Heat have any desire to part with Bam Adebayo, given who he is, what he means to the franchise, how young he is, and their trajectory and the expectation that he would probably be an anchor for them for years to come, and given the way that Pat Riley usually operates, I don't think he'd be going anywhere. And if anything, obviously, if there's a discussion between those two teams, you would think that the Heat trying to pry loose Damian Lillard to add to Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, and then the Trailblazers have still not indicated they're interested in giving up Damian Lillard, and so they need to fortify around him. So, it makes sense that they might pursue Bam and a lot of other guys. But if it's just that they're in pursuit or talking to them, whatever, conversations happen.
I mean, yes, it's 100% that. It was Portland, and to me, look, and I give Portland credit. It's as these smaller markets getting a superstar who actually wants to stay, and Damian Lillard has made that clear. He would love to stay and make his career there. I give them credit for trying to grasp at every straw. I'm just curious, and you're as dialed into the league as anyone. Loyalty is a great thing in life. It is. And when you have a job, you'd love for your bosses to be loyal. However, we found in sports, especially basketball, loyalty only gets you so far. Look, yes, Dirk stayed in Dallas and eventually got a title. But Kevin Garnett stayed in Minnesota and barely got out of the first round. When is it time for Damian Lillard to just say enough's enough? I love you, Portland, but I want to win. Because it feels like the Trailblazers are not close to winning. It feels like they've gone backwards the last few years.
The only person who can answer that question is Damian Lillard, because it's not up to us to decide what his career should look like. If he wants to stay there for his whole career, that has enough value to him that it means more to him than chasing a championship in another city, then that's fine. That's up to him. The Trailblazers is the more curious part of it to me, because if Lillard wants to stay, and as I just said, I think he should be able to determine his own life, his own career. If he wants to stay, great. But they don't have to honor that. I understand why they've done that, and I think it's honorable that they've honored that. They're a franchise that, has viewed this situation as, hey, Dame is the best player in franchise history. He has been loyal to us. We're going to stick by him, and we're not trading him unless he wants to be traded. The problem is, you could argue that it's not the best thing for the franchise long term when he's now in his early 30s and limited time left playing at a really high level. And if you can't get to a level as a team that takes advantage of that, then the logical thing to do is to move him, replenish your assets, get young players and picks and all that. So there's a practical thing. So I think it's much more of an interesting discussion of the pragmatic decision they have to make as an organization, rather than the I think kind of emotional decision that Lillard makes, which is like, I just want to stay here. So I don't know that we're any closer to a resolution there. Obviously, the Trailblazers still think maybe whether they can trade the third pick, or whether they're trading Anthony Simons or whoever to get veteran help around him, they still feel like they can somehow become a respectable team in short order again, and maybe they'll pull it off. We'll see.
The NBA draft lottery show used to have even less appeal to me than Red on Roundball, as I guess it was filler in halftimes at halftimes of NBA games. Now it became its own separate entity, although it was of extreme interest this year. I did see a piece, Howard, I don't know if you saw this, with Jerry West talking about the LeBron draft, where the Grizzlies had a protected number one pick, and he was devastated, crushed. Said it was the worst thing that ever happened in his basketball lifetime, except for maybe losing to the Knicks in the finals that one year when Memphis drew the number 2 spot. It was huge again this year, and it might have been as big as the Milwaukee-Phoenix coin flip back in the day, where Milwaukee ended up with Kareem and Neil Walk went to the Phoenix Suns to go ahead through a rather undistinguished career. Wembanyama, what do you make of this? I mean, is there any way to tell? I mean, he appears to have the demeanor to be very successful. What do you make of his NBA prospects at this point? Are you in as much hyperbole talking about this kid as everybody else?
I don't think you're going to find anybody in basketball who's not excited about Victor Wembanyama and who doesn't believe that he's a generational type player who could absolutely change the league and could absolutely, have a Hall of Fame type career. But, we say these things sometimes just, with the everything that we have in front of us, right? You can see the outline of it, right? He's like 7'2", 7'3". He's got guard skills. He's, like even taller Kevin Durant in that sense, right? And he's going to be along these lines of these unicorns, these 7-footers, like, Durant's a virtual 7-footer. Giannis is close to 7 feet. These modern day players who are super tall, super long, and can play all over the court. And Wembanyama is almost like the ultimate version of it. He's got 3-point range. He's really fluid. That's the other thing for as tall as he is. He's really fluid. He's not gawky the way that Porzingis was when he first arrived. And everybody around the league is very excited about him, and for good reason. But look, we never know until we know, right? A guy's got to actually get to the league, and you got to hold up physically, and you've got to adapt to the NBA game and all these other things. And, I think it's often a little bit, dangerous for us to try to project forward too much about what a guy will be or can become in the league. Because, you need some good luck, especially with regard to health. A lot of times it depends on where you land. And fortunately for him, he's landing in the best possible place. He's landing in with the Spurs. So, a lot of guys end up with really bad organizations because that's usually who's drafting at the top. But, it takes, the work ethic and the time in the gym and everything else. The good news is, as you alluded to, it seems like he's got the right makeup. He seems like a really solid guy, really bright, and has passion for the game, which again is part of the issue for some guys who arrive and cannot quite make the most of their careers, is because some of them just don't love the game.
So I was going to ask about the Bradley Beal now with the Suns, but you just gave me a natural transition into a guy who may not have been this level of generational talent, but it felt like he was going to change the game. He was something that at 6'4", 270 could handle and dunk like he was LeBron. Zion Williamson is someone that I'm so confused by, because coming out of Duke, he did say all the right things. And we heard that he did like to work out. And yes, weight was an issue, but he was going to get it under control. And he has just fallen off the rails the last, I guess, since his NBA career started. He hasn't played more than half a season. He's never gotten his weight under control. Now he has whatever issues with women that you would think teenage / 20-somethings would have, but he's totally lost control of it. Like, is he done in New Orleans? And then if you're another franchise, how do you even try to corral Zion?
I came to the conclusion sometime in the last year or so myself that I thought that if I were the Pelicans, and it's easy for me to say, that I would seriously look to get out of the Zion business, because I've just lost faith in the idea that as great as he's been when he plays, he doesn't play nearly enough. He doesn't seem to be particularly responsible about himself, his career, his body. And I just don't trust the trajectory of his career at this stage. But it ends up in the exact place that you just said, which is, well, how do you even value him? If he's on the market right now, and it's not entirely clear, if you're another team, how do you even decide what you're worth or what you're willing to give up for him? Because he's on a max deal, paying him, $200 million over the next however many years. So he's, once you're in, and he's not reliable. After year one, you go, okay, some bad luck with regard to health, and sure, he's got a body type that makes it hard. But after year two, then it's a bigger concern, and now it's like 3 years in, and every single season is the same plot playing out over and over again. He plays, he looks amazing, he gets hurt, he's gone the rest of the season. Yep. How many times can you do that before you decide we cannot bank our entire franchise on this guy? And so, I mean, if I'm the Pelicans and I've got all this other talent around, I'd certainly be more than willing to give him up to try a different direction. I just don't know how you properly assess what he's worth in trade and whether another franchise is going to be willing to give up a ton to get him. Apologize for the jack.
Howard Beck guessing with us here. Yeah, no problem. Howard Beck, it sounds like you're a vulture hovering overhead.
The noisy morning in Brooklyn.
Guessing with us here on the program. You can catch his work in GQ Sports and probably other platforms as well. All right, this gentleman, this always baffles me. Lubie and I always talk about how is it that ESPN will find a guy like Mike Tannenbaum that buried two pro franchises and then have him on as a qualified expert. And, we've seen this in other sports as well. And in this case, it was absolutely, startling to me that this even popped up. But he buried the Continental Basketball Association. He buried the Knicks, buried the Pacers. What is it about Isaiah Thomas that has the Phoenix Suns interested in having him be a consultant of any type in their organization?
Don't know. I can't fill in any blanks there. I did cover Isaiah for several years here in New York, and it was a wild experience.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, including like incidents, where James Dolan, who's not inclined to, be happy with the idea, was having to pay off, lawsuits and all kinds of stuff, and they keep bringing this guy back. All right, we talked about Wembanyama, and then there's a lot of speculation, and as there should be. What happens next? You hear about Scoot Henderson. He supposedly is cinched to make it as a point guard. Maybe not an impactful player immediately, but certainly somebody that within a couple of years might develop. They're talking about Derrick Rose and all kinds of parameters that they're qualifying his skills at. Supposedly he is either going to be 2 or 3. This Brandon Miller out of Alabama, did he overwhelmingly impress you? Seemed like besides some of the issues that took place, he didn't make that great of a showing. I don't know if he was injured or not. I want to say yes during the NCAA tournament, and maybe that diminished his performance a little bit. But what happens after that? Because this is where all these rumors are being sparked from and triggered from. That there could be chaos from like number 2 on.
Well, the potential for chaos is less about the draft class and much more about situations that a lot of these teams find themselves in. Portland at 3, we already kind of talked about. Are they if they're drafting a player? Well, that player, no matter how good he is, and I think Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller are both going to be fine. Like Scoot in particular, I know a little bit more about. I think he's going to be great. But if you're drafting one of those guys at that age, you're not trying to win immediately because rookies almost never help you win immediately in the NBA. So you can't look at a young guy and say this is the guy who's going to help Damian Lillard get us back to the conference finals or beyond. So the Trailblazers have to consider trading that pick. So there's one piece. Then the fact that Charlotte has the number 2 overall pick, and if Scoot is the best player, in their view, do you take Scoot and put him next to LaMelo Ball, and how much do you think they'll fit together, or are you going with Brandon Miller? So now you've got the volatility of 2 and 3 picks, and Portland's decisions may rest on what Charlotte does at 2. But then after them, Detroit and Houston are both teams that are trying to turn the corner after several years of losing. So they're not necessarily looking to get another 19 or 20-year-old who's not going to help them immediately. They need veterans. And so there's certainly a view that Detroit and Houston may want to trade their picks or trade down in order to leverage the value of those picks and get veterans instead. So you've got a lot of those situations. Indiana is at 7, I think, and there's talk of them trying to flip their pick as well. So, and then on top of everything else, you have a new CBA in the NBA that has, all kinds of penalties for the high spending teams, and everybody's trying to now shed salary to try to make sure that they don't, get too far too quickly in their payroll. So there's just a lot of reason for a lot of movement.
Right, yeah, go ahead, Lou.
Well, I know we got to wrap up with you, but I did want to touch on the finals a second. It's funny, like the finals happened like yesterday, and the offseason is so big now that it literally starts as Jokic is making his last basket. Where people are focused on, are the Nuggets a great team? Can they be a dynasty? I think it's not fair to Jokic to even go there. Where do you do with Nikola Jokic? Because to me, he's already sort of cemented himself as one of these all-time great big men just because of his offensive skill set. Like the dude was doing 25, 14, and 10, and as a Heat fan, I was excited that we held him, quote-unquote, in check. Watching this guy play basketball, the way he plays is so hard to comprehend because he looks like the definition of a clod on one end, and then on offense, it's like Bill Walton reincarnated. To me, Jokic has already cemented himself as one of these great players, and he's still a young dude. Like, where are you with the Nuggets and Nikola Jokic as you project them out going forward?
Well, they should stick around for a while, but even as I say that, I'm always mindful of the fact that in the NBA things change very quickly sometimes, and where we used to talk about, great young teams like the Nuggets, you talk about them, hey, this team is going to be dominating potentially for the next, 7 to 10 years. Now we talk about everything in 3 to 5 year cycles because contracts are shorter, guys move around a lot more, and, especially as I say under this new CBA, it's going to be harder and harder to keep teams together. Now, the Nuggets don't have that issue immediately, and they do have a bunch of guys who fit really well together, who are really talented, who obviously have great chemistry, who are young, who are under contract. And typically you look at that and say, okay, this team should be a force in the West and in the NBA for several years. and probably they will be. But, as I say, things change fast, and they got to keep, Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, that whole core, Contavious Caldwell-Pope. I mean, all those pieces matter. This is not a super team. They're not built around, like 3 elite players. They, and Jamal Murray is knocking on the door of the elite, but he hasn't made an all-star or all-NBA team yet. But this is a team that's kind of more of an ensemble, and so every piece matters, and you got to try to keep them all, and you got to try to keep them all happy contractually, and that's always a challenge in this league. But if you're looking ahead to next season, they're going to go in as the clear favorites, and with a lot left to happen. Right, we have a lot of offseason here left for the Suns to try to now fortify around their new big three. Good luck with that. The Lakers and Clippers are trying to put themselves back together on some level. The Warriors are trying to put themselves back together. So there's a bunch of teams, and then the Kings and Grizzlies are young teams that obviously finished second and third in the West last year. So there's plenty of high level competition in the West, but some of these teams have a little more volatility than others, and the Nuggets will be the favorite among all those, but no one's standing still.
Excellent stuff as always, Howard. I know you have to run. Thanks so much for spending time with us today. Very illuminating, and looking forward to your coverage and all of the happenings that occur in the draft and the aftermath shortly after. So thanks so much for being with us.
Got it. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Howard. Appreciate it. Hey, it's good to be wanted. The reports have come out that the Trailblazers are going to put an aggressive package together to try and get Bam. And I'm sure most teams would put a package together. He's the best all-around defensive player in the NBA. He has a ton of offensive skill. He's still young. He's athletic. He can play offensively probably 3 to 5, and defensively he can defend 1 through 5. Yes, he's the kind of guy that doesn't really exist throughout the NBA. So most teams would want Bam Adebayo. It's why the Miami Heat are building their team in large part around him and are trying to get Damian Lillard to join them. So you have a 3-headed monster of Bam Adebayo, Damian Lillard, and Jimmy Butler. So those reports don't do anything for me but make me realize the Blazers are trying anything and everything to keep Damian Lillard, and eventually they won't be able to do anything. And it feels like Dame will eventually ask out. When is the time? I thought we're long since past that time, as the Trailblazers, I think they made it a conference finals a couple years ago, but ever since then, they've traded all-star guard CJ McCollum. They haven't gotten better. They've gone backwards, and Dame has gotten more and more frustrated. Howard says it right. It's up to Dame if he wants to leave or not. It feels like he does. It feels like eventually he's going to want to leave. And that's the thing for the Trailblazers. What are you holding on to him for? I understand loyalty, and that's great from both sides. But you're getting worse. While he still is in his prime and can fetch a price, you should probably trade him and get what you can. I give the Blazers credit for admitting that Bam's the kind of player they'd want. That's great. The Heat aren't getting rid of him. It wouldn't make any sense to get rid of him. The trade packages that have come up from the Blazers' end are interesting trades if you're rebuilding a team. The problem is the Heat aren't. The Heat are firmly not only in contender mode, they're in win-now mode. I mean, Jimmy Butler's in his early 30s. And he only has probably 2-3 years left at this level. You're not going to wait for Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller to flourish and get into the game. You want to win now, star/superstar player now. So, but Howard says it. Yeah, he's like, look, it's nice that they're interested. I'm sure they're interested. That has nothing to do with the Heat. The Heat are using Bam as a cornerstone, anchor, building block player. And that's what he is. What will the Heat do? I don't know. I think the focus should be on Dame. And I think there's a strong possibility they can get Damian Lillard. If not, I'm curious by Zach LaVine. I think the Bulls are another team that have sort of hit their peak. They're really not going anywhere. LaVine has a big contract, but he's a guy that can shoot the three, can get to the basket. He actually can facilitate. He's not as long as I'd like, but he's about 6'5", and he has some good size. So you could play him at the 2-3. And he's a guy that could be that second, third option that would work. And I don't know how much you'd have to give up to go and get a Zach LaVine. So what we shall see. The offseason just started. Heat fans, relax. It's weird. People are frustrated. Look, Beal, I guess, would have fit. They do need another scorer. But at that contract, the amount he gets hurt and the fact that he's peaked and it feels like he's on the other side going down in ability, I was okay that the Heat didn't get Bradley Beal. People, you forget, they were in the finals. And Tyler Hero, their third best player, didn't play the entire playoffs. Okay? Yes, they need some height. Yes, they need some more scoring, 100%. I would love a superstar, but the offseason just started. To get frustrated already makes zero sense. The Heat have shown no matter how frustrated we get, they find a way. Leave them alone. Let's see what happens. And I think it's going to be a very interesting offseason for the Miami Heat and for the NBA. We'll talk a lot more about that. Check us out each and every morning right here, Defo on 5 on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Check us out on our morning show, South Florida Live, YouTube network, The Defo Show with Lubie, our national podcast, The Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And here, our South Florida content, The Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports content, The Defo Show with Lubie on.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.